Hey, everybody, welcome to Pit Stops Podium, the RevPartners podcast, where we talk to execs who have competed and won, taking their companies from high growth to high scale. My name is Brendan Tollison. I am the co-founder and CEO of RevPartners, and I'm delighted to have with me today Yamini Rangan of HubSpot for the latest episode of Pit Stops Podium. Welcome, Yamini.
Thank you so much, Brendan. It is exciting to be here to talk to you, and congrats on all of the success that you have seen as a HubSpot partner this year.
Well, I appreciate it. I think actually the congrats need to go to you. Yamini currently serves as the Chief Customer Officer of HubSpot, the first ever person to serve that function. But some exciting news is that Yamini will be is soon to be the CEO of HubSpot. So congratulations, Yamini.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yep, it's all happening.
Yeah, I'm sure you're quite busy right now. When Yamini's role in the Chief Customer Officer was really around her focus of aligning and unifying teams. And prior to HubSpot, Yamini served a similar role at Dropbox as a CCO, and even was a VP of Sales and Strategy Operations at Dropbox. Yamini, as we get started, especially as you've been a Chief Customer Officer, moving into that CEO role, you have a unique lens on who HubSpot is. So in your own words, how would you describe HubSpot?
HubSpot is really the CRM platform for scaling companies. And Brendan, we are in the age of the customer, and the last 18 months have shown that you really need to be digitally connected to all of your customers. And so HubSpot provides all of the front office digital tools needed for our customers to stay connected with their customers.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is a digital landscape now, and especially in light of COVID. If you weren't digital first, then you have certainly had to embrace that concept. And so HubSpot is a great solution to unify the entire customer journey. Well, Yamini, before we get into today's big idea, we do have a tradition here at Pit Stops Podium, and that's to understand our guest outside of work. So
right.
What are three fun facts that our audience should know about you?
All right. I like this question. I'll tell you, the first one is that I never intended to be in technology. When I was growing up, I thought I wanted to be in design and architecture. I was kind of obsessed. I used to carry around a notepad and always be drawing buildings and people. And so that's a fun fact. And I still like, scribbling and drawing. So that's one. The second thing I would say is that, I am a non-caffeine person. I typically don't have any, caffeine. And I start very early. I work in the West Coast for an East Coast company. So I'm up, pretty early, but no coffee, no tea. However, because I live in California and I spend a bunch of time in Napa, I am certainly in favor of wine. That's my favorite drink. That's the second fun fact. And then I'll say that the third one is not as a fun fact, but just getting to know me personally. I'm mother of two boys, 14 and 12. They're, super active. We all love being active. So most of the time you'll find us being outside the house, hiking, or in some kind of sports. So
what's your favorite hiking spot?
Honestly, Bay Area is amazing for it. So we're constantly looking up new trails to go to. We recently went to Yellowstone National Park and we did a bunch of hikes there, and it was just beautiful. So,
yeah, that was one of the hobbies that my family picked up during COVID. Granted, my kids are a lot younger than yours, but it was there are some benefits to what COVID created, and certainly that was one of them for us. So that's great. Well, Yamini, thank you for sharing a little bit more about you outside of HubSpot. But let's transition into the big idea. I know this is something you're passionate about, and ultimately I know it's something that HubSpot's really passionate about, and that's how to align your teams around the flywheel.
Yep.
And so as we get started, Yamini, let's really define what is the flywheel. I know that's something that HubSpot talks a lot about, but I'd love to hear from you how you think about that flywheel.
Yeah, it's a great question. A number of HubSpot, customers probably heard us talk about the flywheel 3-4 years ago as we started with the concept of flywheel inbound. Now, Brendan, you've been in sales for a very long period of time. Now, in order for us to understand flywheel, you have to actually think about what is not the flywheel. And funnel is not the flywheel. And that's how traditionally in sales marketing, we used to look at everything, right? We would start with the funnel. We would look at what is top of the funnel. How do you convert all of those, into customers? And at the end of the bottom of the funnel, you have a customer one, you celebrate with a gong, a bell, a win note. And then what happens to the customer? Not much. So that's what, not having a flywheel does. And therefore, when we started thinking about the concept of the flywheel, we wanted to put the customer at the center of the flywheel and ensure that marketing does everything to attract the right kinds of customers. Sales does everything to engage the right kinds of customers. And customer success is oriented around delighting the customer. And all of this with the customer at the center, what ends up happening when you delight your customers, and that becomes the focus of the organization, is you create a flywheel. And what happens with the flywheel, with the right levels of force and with the reduction of friction, flywheel begins to spin. And so for us, we've oriented our products and our go-to-market around this concept of putting customers at the center and really fueling the flywheel by making customers really, delighted.
Yeah, I love the concept. And you're right. I mean, traditionally in sales, you do think about the funnel in terms of, hey, if I bring in 100 leads, how many of those do I convert? But it implies that there is a finite end to that engagement. And by putting the flywheel first and ultimately putting the customer first, it assumes that there is, an entire journey that you are embarking upon, which ultimately not only delights the customer, but it benefits you because it creates either, expansion, upsell, or that word of mouth referral that you otherwise wouldn't get if you're just thinking of it purely as a transaction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly right.
So Yami, let's transition. So we defined what the flywheel is. We were talking about alignment. So let's start with the why. Why does alignment of teams really matter?
I like the fact that we're starting with the why, and we could probably do multiple whys around the same question. Why it matters is your customer should experience the company as a whole and not as a combination of the functions that are within the company. That is why alignment matters. And so you take the concept of the flywheel, you started putting your customer at the center. But if your marketing still focuses on leads and sales still focuses on their monthly quota, and your customer success and service still focuses on their metrics, maybe it's CSAT or NPS, you're still not there optimizing for your end customer. And so alignment is exceptionally important to really take the next steps to bring the customer at the center and delight the customer. In a typical organization, Brendan, if you go and ask your head of marketing, what's your goal? Head of sales, what's your goal? Head of customer success, what's their goal? If that goal does not have the word customer in it, then there's no alignment. And that's what we find in most organizations. Like they'll say something about leads and, targets and CSAT and something like that, but it needs to have the word customer. And so that's where you got to begin the journey of alignment, because unless you have alignment, your customers are still going to experience your organization as sum of parts.
Well, yeah, and I think it speaks to that customer journey. And you talk about, creating a frictionless experience. A lot of times what we call that is the friction tax. And,
yes.
and it ultimately creates leakage because it's a bad experience for the customer. And you talk about this idea of vectors for the team. Can you expand on what you mean by that from a vector standpoint?
Vector is basically, just, pointed in the same direction, right? If you think about all of these organizations, we talk about vector because it shows the direction that they're pointed to and the magnitude of the force, that helps that vector particularly move. And so when we, look at alignment internally, we want to make sure that the flywheel organization, and we did end up creating a flywheel organization internally, Brendan, at HubSpot, which is marketing, sales, customer success. We want them pointed in exactly the same direction. And that's what we mean by the vectors are aligned. And that direction is serving our customers in a delightful manner. That is our winning aspiration. So when we started this journey, not dissimilar to a lot of our customers, we had very different goals. And then we came together as a Flywheel team and we said, what does winning look like for our entire Flywheel organization? It came down to focusing on the customer and delivering a delightful customer experience. So whether you are in marketing or your sales or your customer success, or you're in revenue operations, supporting any of these teams, the ultimate goal that we care to really focus on is delighting the customer experience. And that points to that level of vector alignment.
Yeah, I think it's a really good segue into the next or the final idea that we have. So we understand what the flywheel is, why alignment is so important, and then ultimately, what do you do about that? And so you kind of tease that out a little bit in terms of HubSpot driving their teams around this alignment concept. What are some practical applications, some insights that you've seen in your experience that would be helpful for our audience as to how do you break down those silos to scale?
Yeah, and you got to break it down, right? This is not so complex. The first step in the journey is understanding why you have to do it, which we talked about, which is, that's how you serve your customer. The next step in the journey is to breaking it down into practical steps. What has worked for HubSpot, what I would, ideally suggest our customers, prospects look at is who is the decision-making group. At HubSpot, the decision-making group was leader of marketing, leader of sales, leader of customer success, leader of revenue operations. These are the folks. And so whether you bring them together like we did under an organization, or you bring them together as a decision-making group, that's the first step. Bring together the folks that are responsible for decisions around the customer experience together in the group. The second is actually creating a winning aspiration, which we talked a little bit about. What does winning look like across all of these groups that are serving the customer? In our case, it's delivering a delightful customer experience. The third step in the process is actually having a decision-making cadence. In our case, it's biweekly. This group gets together. We look at the most critical metrics that measure our impact on the customer's experience. And we also look at the key initiatives that we are driving that support the customer experience. And between all of that, we know the kinds of decisions we need to make. And Brendan, it actually came into being very quickly. Last year, we started the year, we pulled all of these groups together. And in March, as you know, the world was kind of like struck by a pandemic. And so it was very timely to have this decision-making group. And in a matter of 5 days, we made decisions that would typically take 5 months during a planning cycle. We made decisions on how to support our customers during a very turbulent time, how to support our partners, again, providing a level of safety for our partners, making sure that we made changes in pricing, making sure we made changes to our product. All of those decisions happened with this group. And so the practical steps are identify the need, create a group that which is the decision-making group, identify the winning aspiration for the group, and create a decision-making cadence where decisions can happen quick and fast and still centered around the customer.
That's great. Thank you for giving such a practical application. I'm a geek for a framework. And so that prescriptive process will certainly be applied, not only for me, but I'm sure for the rest of our audience. And so Yamini, I really do appreciate you making the time to share about your experience at HubSpot and how you've been able to drive alignment within the organization. What are practical ways in which our audience can engage with both you and with HubSpot?
With HubSpot, follow us all over the digital presence. I think our blogs, our educational content, any of that would be absolutely the ways that you can keep in touch with us. And we are committed to kind of educating, inspiring all front office folks, globally. So that is great. And in terms of me personally, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Medium, and I'm on LinkedIn. And if any of this resonates with you, follow me. And I write a lot about all of this stuff. This is my passion, and definitely follow.
Well, Yamini, thanks again for joining us, and congrats again on the exciting news at HubSpot. We know you'll do great things, and thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me at Pit Stop, and really appreciate the work that you and the whole team does. Thanks a lot, Brandon.
Thank you.